Okay, we're here with Steve Burge, who's the music
hello.
teacher. How do you say hello in sign language, Steve? It's pretty easy, you just got to wave your hand.
Yeah, I thought,
hello. Steve is, he's the music teacher here at Eastbury Primary School. And now, Steve, you can't actually see, is that right?
Yeah, I'm registered blind.
Yeah.
And obviously got my guide dog Rufus sitting down here beside me. And yeah.
But you're teaching deaf children, is that right?
Yes, I've been teaching them percussion with Ms Baker for nearly the last year now.
For the last year?
Yeah.
So what kind of percussion do you teach them?
I'm teaching djembe.
Djembe, is this a djembe here? This thing?
Djembe we've got here. And we've been teaching, not really teaching the kids music specifically. We've been using the djembe to help actually develop their speech and language skills, specifically working on syllables and counting and numbers, and also dealing with kind of low and high, and we just started working on odd and even numbers today.
So odd and even. Now, this is the big question that everyone will be asking, how do you communicate with deaf children because you're blind?
Okay, so we've used a range of techniques, including radio aids, which is a looping system where myself and Abby are wearing a microphone which has a receiver on it, and then that goes to the children who are wearing boxes which then are linked into their hearing aids, and they can, or their cochlear implants, and then they can hear them. And then we've been using that. So
that uses voice.
That uses voice. So I would speak. I would say hello, Charlie, or hello, Hussein.
Yeah.
And they are then able to respond back to me.
That's clearer.
And that's also with the visual relationship that's developed between myself and the children over the year, because obviously we're now in.
But obviously you're not using eye contact. They're not using eye contact, so that makes them actually listen more. Is that right?
I think it makes them listen more. They're having to look at me, but they're also having to actually communicate with me, because obviously I can't look at them and go, oh, stop. You know, they've actually got to communicate with me using
spoken
their voice.
communication.
It's spoken communication.
Have you seen an improvement in their speech?
Yes, yes, a big improvement in all of the children's speech, but especially Charlie, Hussein, and then also not just their speaking, their confidence.
Their confidence.
Their
they're quiet, now they're louder.
Now they're loud, yeah. They come in here and they, you know, some of them are quite cheeky towards me, and it's lovely because they're, you know, to me they're just a bunch of children who I teach like any of the other children I teach in the school, you know, and they've got the same
personality,
potential to be naughty, quiet, funny, loud as any other child has, but they can't hear. So.
Yeah, they can't hear clearly. Now, you're learning sign language. That's interesting. How's that going?
Well, that's your fault, but
that's my fault.
No,
I'll take responsibility for that.
When I started at the school, it was quite interesting. I was kind of thought, okay, so I get the fact that they're going to be able to hear through using technology and things like that, and be able to hear vibration and things like that. I had no idea how this was going to work when I first started.
Because it hasn't been done before, has it?
Hasn't been with it, as I understand it, with the first school doing it in the UK.
First school in the UK, possibly the world. I don't know about blind teachers teaching deaf children. I don't think I've really heard about that.
So you convinced me to take this challenge on, and it's been a really great experience. You know, so far it's kind of. I started off learning some very basic things. You know, like.
You want to show us that?
Yeah, I learned first was like. Good morning,
good? What's good?
Everybody.
Oh, so good
morning, everybody.
So how, and who actually, I know I was teaching it, but I'm sort of not involved so much now. How are you learning sign language, and how's it work?
I'm very lucky that I've got a very good support worker called Nick Hasted, and she works with me along with Ms Dobson as well, who's another support worker communicator, and they both have exceptional sign language skills and a wealth of experience. You know, they've both worked in the kind of you know, hearing profession for. And
Ms Hasted's actually worked with deaf blind. So the methods that you're using is like hands-on sign language. Is it like touching?
Yeah. So basically, we will during the class we will be working with the children to start off with using the signs that I already know, because it's work we've been. Kind of progressing and repeating and adding to all over the past year, and then what tends to happen, we'll get to a point where it's like, I will want to sign a particular word. So it could be the word same, for example, which I now know to be same.
Okay then.
Or it could be different. But I didn't know that when I was like thinking, right, this is what
I allowed to correct you on that when you said different?
Yeah.
So is this, no, you haven't. You did same right with the fingers.
Same, yeah.
And different, you just keep your fingers together and you put, like, not, and you pull them apart. Can only show like this. Different.
Okay.
Different. I actually am demonstrating there. That's how it actually, that's sort of what you do, yeah?
So that's kind of how it happens. It's kind of like, because at the minute it's like trying to remember every single word is still a little bit in the learning process.
Are you just picking out, what kind of words are you just, how many words a week are you sort of trying? Are you picking out keywords?
One. It's realistically, I would say, it's no more than one or two, because
and you're building up your vocabulary.
Building up a vocabulary, but it's only one or two, because what tends to happen, half of the lesson we tend to go over what we've done
before, so you're relearning.
So we're relearning, we're learning by route, we're learning by kind of just like, kind of continual modelling and repetitive kind of playing.
Well, that's good for you and for the children as well.
It's good for both of us, yeah, it's good for all of us.
So what new words did you learn today?
Today I learned the words odd and even.
Okay, what's the sign for odd?
So odd is fat.
So it's one hand, just flat, yeah.
Odd.
Yeah.
And that's even.
And that's even, so there you've learned. And so next week you'll be going over odd and even.
And also I want to do odd and even with, today we did a lesson where we're using the different sounds. I'll just put the djembe up a minute. So we're using, what I've been doing with the children, I've been using the low tone of the djembe.
So what's the sign for low?
It's fat, low.
So low, so yeah.
And I've also been doing the bear, we've been saying no, it's a big, because we've been doing animals as well.
Okay.
So I've kind of mixed the two together, and it's worked not only really well for the kids, but it's worked really well for my memory, because I'm thinking I've linked an animal to a sign.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh, hang on, it's low, and then the high, which I've got a bird, because that's kind of, that's been, which has been
and that's it. So
the high. And then what we've been doing with that, we've been getting to kind of use like low and high, and we've been using those to animals. So like an elephant, for example.
Which one is it?
Would be low, because he's a big animal. He's a big jungle animal, so it'd be elephant.
Yeah, and they're doing syllables. You said.
And they're
so
doing
they
syllables with that, so it'd be like elephant.
Could they do it at the start?
They couldn't. No, none of them could do that. In fact, one of the children, Charlie, who I've been working with, he wouldn't even talk to me or say, you know what I mean, getting any communication out of him.
Any verbal communication.
Any verbal communication. And now he chatters away and he laughs and he says, yes, Steve, and he's like, you know, and I ask him his name. And for me, that's been a really, it's quite an emotional kind of thing that's taken place over the last few months.
I was going to say, how has it impacted on you as a professional? How have you felt about this experience?
Well, as like I say, you know, at first, when you first kind of contacted me, because you know I've known you for quite some time and professionally, and when you asked me to come in and do this project, I was kind of like, how is that going to work? You know, yes, you know, I'm a professional musician, sound engineer. That wasn't the issue. That was I thought, you know, there's always a way around solving those things, but it's how was I going to communicate with the children? Because obviously, I'm blind, they're deaf.
Yeah.
And my understanding before that of the child who was deaf was
they can't hear.
They can't hear.
They can't hear.
Exactly the same way most people think that if you're blind,
you can't see.
You're blind. You know, you don't see anything, and that's not the case. You know, a lot of people have got light reception, or they've got something, or shade, or something. You know, and obviously that perception, because I'd never worked with deaf children before.
Were you a bit nervous?
Yeah, just a little bit scared, nervous. Yeah, lots of different. And the first day was quite emotional because I was sitting here thinking, you know, really, this may not. I'm not one of these people that likes admitting failure, you know. Yeah. So it's like, and I was wondering, no, maybe this time I've bitten off more than I can chew, kind of thing. Because it was difficult knowing how we're going to communicate. How am I going to get them to understand me, to kind of teach them and take them forward, you know. So that was really difficult. I think the main thing has been me realising that not all deaf children are totally deaf. I didn't know that before. I didn't realise that
everyone can hear something.
They can hear something, and also the range of what they can hear within each child, just like with each visually impaired child, is different. You know, they don't all have the same hearing loss.
Do you see similarities between the vision and the visually impaired children and the deaf children, because they're both sensory?
I see similarities. I see similarities in the perceptions of what they can and can't achieve, or necessarily what what deafness is or what blindness is. I think that's the real similarity, or the thing I've realised over the last few months. You know, not one child who is deaf is just deaf. Mm-hmm. Not one child who is blind is just blind. You know, and I mean that in terms of like
sees nothing,
exactly,
hears nothing.
exactly. And I've noticed. So for example, today
there's always a range.
One of the children today actually has started. We've just been doing like low sounds and high sounds. Now today, one of the children said, "Oh, that's mid," and I didn't preempt that at all. You know, I hadn't, because I couldn't see them. They obviously looking at me. They've looked at me the way I was shaking my hand is on the drum, but they've also heard the sound, and they've gone, "Hang on, that's between where Steve."
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle. So, and straight away she said, "That's mid," and I was like, "But
you haven't taught it."
I haven't taught that. So now we've got to a point where, through this kind of intervention and through the development of this program, where the children are now actually extending it themselves, and they're helping each other. That's the amazing thing. They actually, like, you know, today they all go, "Oh no, it's that, you need to, you know, it's lower, it's high, it's like."
And they're talking and communicating with each other.
Communicating and supporting each other as well.
Now you teach hearing children.
Teach hearing children, yeah, drums and percussion.
Do you see any comparison between the deaf children, their abilities, and some of the hearing classes that you have? Like, what is there a big difference? I
think yes, there is a big difference, but they're not big differences in the way they work. They work in the same thing. They actually have the potential to be as naughty as any of the other children, or as
What about their listening skills, from a listening skill perspective? Because you've been developing listening skills.
Yeah, I think their listening skills are better.
What, the deaf children?
The deaf children, I think the listening skills, or whether you would call that a listening skill or an attention skill, or I'm not quite sure.
In what way? Can you give an example?
For example, Charlie, who's one of my deaf children who I teach, he is so like orally kind of attentive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I say, "Charlie," he's like, "Yes, Steve," you know, and he's like straight away, he's engaged from the moment he comes and he sits down. He knows that on.
Do you know, Charlie, that is actually a difficulty of his, an additional need, that attention is something that he struggles with. Did you know that?
No.
No, well, it is actually.
Yeah, but his attention, and it's improved, you know, now he sits down. Sometimes he can be a little bit, not naughty, but just cheeky. But I actually love that, and that has come through in his personality, his natural. So I kind of, that to me says, oh, he's actually comfortable with me being taught by him. You know, he's part of the class.
So comparing with the hearing children.
So the hearing children, and I've taught many different classes while I've been here so far. And
what year?
I've taught year 3 and year 4, and that's it so far. I'm about to start teaching year 1. So yeah, and I think the main thing is a lot of those children have had real problems in listening, just sitting still, just coming into a class, sitting still, focusing, knowing their left from their right. To be quite honest, in quite a few people, and teamwork. Can be working together, you know, listening to each other.
So you think the deaf children could actually teach the hearing children?
I think
some skills.
I think they could certainly. They've certainly got skills to give to the other children. I think that it's an integration thing. I think, you know, I think the fact is that, you know, children learn from other children, and they learn from the experience. They don't necessarily learn from other children, but they learn from the experiences and the way other children behave. And I think the deaf children. What I noticed between the deaf children and the sighted children, but the hearing children, is the way they interact together. You know, the deaf children are much more compassionate towards each other. They're much more supportive towards each other as pupils, whereas the hearing children are a little bit more boisterous and a little bit more
judgmental.
Not bullying's not the right, but you know that kind of I think that kind of peer kind of group rivalry that goes on. You know, they're young children, so they're kind of.
Well, they're older than the deaf children.
But they're still. I mean, they're still young in terms of like, you know. But they're it's almost they're striving to get that kind of. You know,
so that's interesting. That's a strength that the deaf children have that the hearing children need to develop.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. So just to sort of summarise your experiences, and if you were going to talk to other people and recommend it, what sort of things, you know, just to sort of summarise the last year?
Well, the last year has been...
I know that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing opportunity for me to develop my skills professionally in teaching, you know, the hearing impaired children. And I don't even think of that's the interesting.
No, we use the word deaf, but
I don't even use those words. They're just children to me.
Yeah.
They just. Yeah. It's like in my world. I am registered blind, but I don't define myself by my blindness. I define myself by the fact, you know, I'm Steve. I'm a person. I'm a musician. I'm a son. I'm a brother. Yeah. And I just happen to be down that long list of things. I happen to be blind and I have a guide dog.
Yeah.
That's the same attitude I take towards these children.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to keep moving forward, and you obviously work closely with me, the teacher of the deaf, and the speech therapist. Do you see this as a very therapeutic, now moving into music development? I
think this program, which we've kind of built and designed between yourself and me and Abby over the last year, I think is the start of something which I think can be very, very successful in developing communication.
Well, their results are amazing. Their results in listening and speaking have been outstanding, which Ofsted came and saw that. So I think that's a direct reflection of the work that you guys do. You know, you guys do. Well, we do as a team, but especially the intervention work that you do.
And the fact that it's now been taken out into the rest of the school as well. You know, it's now been, you know, it's seeing the results which we've had with the children in the ARP. Then there's now, you know, looking at the kind of strengths of that and the strengths those children have had in.
Well, you're going to be doing year one now, so you're going to be doing similar work that you do with the deaf children with the year one, and we'll see how that goes.
And it'll be very interesting in kind of, you know, 6-12 months to compare the kind of effect that it's had on the hearing children and the effect it's had on the hearing impaired children.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome, thank you.
Cool, thank you. That was good.